Hey folks, Seth Liebson here. As we watch cities burn, statues being torn down, and calls to defund the police, if you haven't already, it may be time to think about personal protection. Guns Etc. has 10,200 square feet of guns, ammo, safes, and a staff that will work with you to find the best firearm for your situation. So stop by their huge store in Mesa or click on gunsetc.com and have access to over $400 million in firearms and accessories. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Welcome back and happy August 20th, 2020. It was of some sophistry and cant to see Barack Obama last night attacking President Trump from the Museum of the American Revolution. I noted he did so from the exhibit room titled Writing the Constitution. To Barack's left, perhaps out of sight of the camera, in that room he spoke from was a replica of the chair George Washington sat in during the debates over the Constitutional Convention in 1787. It was the commencement of that debate, those debates, that led to the creation of what became the preamble to our Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And from that room last night, as I said, the previous president of the United States attacked, in a political partisan convention, the current president of the United States. He mentioned the Constitution only twice, once to say he was in the place where it was drafted, and once to say, quote, "Through civil war and bitter struggles, we improved this Constitution to include the voices of those who'd once been left out," close quote. I suppose we should be grateful we finally had an American leader of the Democratic Party acknowledge we did something good at our founding and throughout our history since. That we could be proud of our country for the first time then, and not, say, in 2008. That we did something we can all be proud of in 1776 and 1787, and not something we should be ashamed of, apologize for, before we were a people or a country at some arbitrary date set before that, some 160 years earlier. But then Barack Obama went on to indict the current president for never growing into the job he was elected to do. That's quite a statement from a less-than-one-term U.S. senator who got elected to the office that brought us a doubling of our national debt, a double-digit unemployment, a GDP growth rate that never reached 3%, a crushing of a democracy movement in Iran, a funneling of billions of dollars to the leadership of Iran that his own Secretary of State said would see some of those funds endow further terrorism, an expansion of the use of assassinatory drone strikes, a toppling of the leader in a Middle Eastern country with no post-topple plan, the toppling of the leader in another Middle Eastern country that was a strong ally of ours, only to see him replaced with the Muslim Brotherhood, an empty threat to the leader of Syria should he use chemical weapons, which he then did use, only to see no response from the threat, which led to a war, causing hundreds of thousands of refugees, while stripping our European allies of missile defense commitments as a defense against Russia. From a president who allowed his IRS to investigate political opponents, while his FBI ran a rogue operation to undermine the election of and tenure of his successor. Haven't even mentioned the attacks on the First Amendment that today's press calls, or would call, a war against the media, for nothing of the sort of thing President Obama was engaged in. As the liberal Atlantic magazine wrote regarding President Obama's tenure, quote, "The Obama administration had been stunningly aggressive in its incursions on news gathering by reporters, prosecuting leakers under the Espionage Act, and demanding the phone records of 20 Associated Press reporters as part of a leak investigation. These were far beyond the previous norms," close quote. Or, as Dana Priest of the Washington Post put it, quote, "Obama's Attorney General repeatedly allowed the FBI to use intrusive measures against reporters more often than any time in recent memory," close quote. Now, this is especially precious, as Obama said last night, "We understand," quote, "that a free press isn't the enemy, but the way we hold officials accountable," close quote. Right. as he put the media under literal surveillance and in federal prison when he was president. Then again, he said last night, we, quote, understand that political opponents aren't un-American just because they disagree with you, close quote. Sure, not un-American, just extremists, racists, and tyrants, all words Biden, Pelosi, and the socialist sewing circle calls us, but not un-American. So spare me the lectures on growing into office when the man with the above record attacks the man who got us 3.5% unemployment, started 0 wars, toppled 0 allies, and got us over 3% GDP growth. Oh, and a Middle East peace deal that is greater than any other president has been able to achieve in over 40 years. Perhaps a greater peace deal than any other president has been able to achieve in over 40 years, any of the presidents combined. All while reassuring our allies in the region that the United States was on their side and not in the business of shoveling billions of dollars to terrorist outposts like the previous administration. I get, as you get, that it is fashionable these days to attack we Republicans and our president because we are not, well, Democrats. That it is fashionable to be told again and again that we distort the truth, we are extremists, we deal in lies, we don't care about the less well-off or minorities. You got all of that in the main speeches last night. And we're supposed to believe it is all new and a departure from previous Republican presidents. You'd think we'd be used to by now being told things like, quote, we've turned the heavens into battlegrounds, or, quote, we've savaged Social Security and Medicare, or, quote, we've trashed civil rights, or, quote, we've poisoned the environment, or, quote, we've assaulted the poor, the sick, and the disabled, close quote. That this president has made, quote, working Americans worse off, and the middle class is standing on a trap door, close quote. Except guess what? Each and every one of those lines I just quoted were from the 1984 Democratic National Convention, spoken about Ronald Reagan by Walter Mondale. We're used, aren't we, to being told our president believes, quote, that the American dream belongs to the privileged few and not to all of us, that he believes, quote, cramped ideals and limited ambitions, close quote, that a college education is a right our children can no longer afford, that our administration was responsible for, quote, poisoning our kids. Each and every one of those quotes were from Michael Dukakis at the 1988 convention about Ronald Reagan. But the media would have us believe what a great model Ronald Reagan was for us, as compared and contrasted to what we have now. Still, we're used to, aren't we, being told our president, quote, derides and degrades the American tradition, that he's taken, quote, the richest country in the world and brought it down, that he put our country, quote, on a disastrous course, that he governed by, quote, decline, decay, and deception, that he has steered our, quote, ship of state into the rocks. Each and every one of those quotes were said about George H.W. Bush by Bill Clinton and Mario Cuomo at the 1992 convention. But the media would have us believe how great a model George H.W. Bush was for us, compared and contrasted to what we have now. And we're used to being told, aren't we, that our president, quote, traffics in racism, and that our president and vice president remind the country of George Wallace, and that it is, quote, typical for our president to, quote, play the race card, and that he, quote, incites racial animus, and that our president, quote, race baits. Except all those quotes are from the 2008 media headlines and not really about our president, but our candidate for president, John McCain. You know, the guy the media and Democrats would have us believe was so great a model for us, compared and contrasted to that which we have now. I can keep playing this game, but it's not a game. It's history. It's traditional. It's tradition. It's usual. It's commonplace. And it's gutter politics. It's gutter politics we've had to put up with since at least the 1960s. It's not new to us, and it's not new and unique to Donald Trump. I remind that the decent Joe Biden said about the terrible Mitt Romney in 2012 that he wanted to put blacks back in chains. Now Mitt Romney is a good guy. It's how the other side has always talked about us. And the only time they praise any of our leaders is once they are no longer a threat to the Democratic Party's power, or when they die, or when they turn on their own party. So you tell me what and who is decent, those who try to distort this history and play this game, or we who see things for what they truly are, that our opponents and media long ago gave up contesting us on the battlefield of ideas and decided that defamation of character and the libel of fear-mongering is their better tactic. Of course they do this by telling us bigotry is our problem, while they feature Linda Sarsour at their convention, and they tell us sexism is our problem, or a Supreme Court nominee's problem, while they feature Bill and Hillary Clinton at their convention. They tell us we are engaged in voter suppression, while they continually compare us and our votaries to the worst racial bloodletters in world history. Well, here's a history they will never understand, not in their present state of mind. We, unlike they, are proud of our founding and don't use it for political window dressing when it's nothing more than convenient and clever. We, unlike they, are proud of a party that founded itself on ending slavery. We, unlike they, do not come from a party that defended and fought for slavery, and when it lost that battle, took up the fight on behalf of and in defense of segregation. We, unlike they, are proud of a party that believes every human being should have a fair shot in life regardless of their race or ethnicity. We, unlike they, are proud of a party that believes we should all have the same rights based on our common membership in the race of or the family we call humanity. We, unlike they, will continue to denounce and renounce and rid ourselves of bigots who try to affiliate with us. We, unlike they, will continue to be proud of a party that believes the law matters and that those who enforce it are heroes, not villains. We, unlike they, will continue to support the most important building blocks of democracy, like the freedom of speech and press. We, unlike they, will continue to appeal to ideas and not redound to demagoguery in order to win elections. We, unlike they, will not allow fools and knaves to depress our country's greatness or achievement. Because we, unlike they, believe this country is special, unique, and something more than a useful experiment for implementing doctrines and philosophies that have been denounced and renounced by every poor soul that has had the misfortune of being forced to live under them throughout the miserable course of human history that America has had the great fortune of opposing. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.